There are stories women have been told for centuries that fulfillment lies in a white dress, a diamond ring, and vows whispered at an altar. But beneath these traditions, hidden in plain sight, is a deeper psychological truth that most never dare to explore. This video is not an attack on marriage. It is a mirror held up to the unconscious forces that drive women into roles they never chose for themselves. Through the lens of Carl Jung's analytical psychology, we'll journey beyond societal expectations and into the symbolic underworld where identity, freedom, and shadow selves reside. What if marriage, as it's commonly understood, is not a sanctuary, but a surrender of the self? This isn't a message of fear. It's a call to awaken. Stay with me, and you may never look at commitment the same way again. Comment below. I choose to awaken to my true self. Carl Jung's analytical psychology offers a profound lens through which we can understand why many women unconsciously enter into marriages that compromise their individuality. Jung believed that each person is born with a psyche divided into conscious and unconscious parts. Within the unconscious lies what he termed the shadow, the parts of ourselves we deny, repress, or remain unaware of. For many women, societal norms encourage the projection of their inner value, power, and identity onto external figures, often romantic partners. This projection displaces their own potential onto the image of the husband, creating an illusion of completion. The anima and animus, the feminine and masculine aspects within each individual, are also crucial. When a woman is conditioned to externalize her animus, she may seek authority, protection, or identity from a man, rather than integrating those traits within herself. In doing so, marriage can become a psychological trap, halting her individuation. The Jungian process of becoming whole by uniting all aspects of the self. Furthermore, Jung warned against the fusion of two incomplete individuals who expect the other to fulfill their inner voids. Many women unknowingly enter marriage expecting salvation, but instead experience fragmentation. The desire for union becomes a loss of autonomy, especially when driven by unconscious cultural scripts rather than authentic self-knowledge. Marriage, when approached unconsciously, may serve as a container not for transformation, but for regression. Through Jung's lens, the true journey is not toward the altar, but inward, toward reclaiming the power, authority, and wholeness that have been projected onto the other. This isn't a condemnation of marriage, but a revelation. When a woman integrates her shadow and animus, she no longer needs marriage to feel complete. She already is. From the earliest stages of life, a woman's psyche is shaped not in isolation, but through a cultural web of narratives, symbols, and inherited expectations. This conditioning begins subtly, almost imperceptibly, through fairy tales, family values, religion, media, and collective myths that idealize love, marriage, and sacrifice. From dolls dressed as brides to films that end in wedding vows, the unconscious is saturated with the idea that a woman's ultimate value lies in her ability to be chosen, desired, and claimed by a partner. Jung understood that the psyche is not merely a personal construct, but is deeply influenced by the collective unconscious, a vast reservoir of archetypes and patterns shared across humanity. Within this collective unconscious exists the great mother, the lover, the wife, the maiden, archetypal forces that influence a woman's identity development. However, when these archetypes are distorted by culture, they become internalized as roles rather than inner energies. Instead of integrating these energies consciously, a woman becomes trapped in them, acting out inherited scripts rather than forging her own path. One of the most pervasive cultural scripts is that of the good woman, nurturing, selfless, patient, and above all, relational. She exists in relation to others as a daughter, a girlfriend, a wife, a mother. Autonomy, ambition, and spiritual independence are often subtly discouraged or penalized. These values don't align with the traditional narrative of femininity. As a result, many women internalize a split: the outer persona crafted to be acceptable and desirable, and the repressed self, filled with latent potential and authentic impulses that have no space within the confines of cultural approval. This dynamic creates an inner conflict. On the surface, a woman may desire love and connection, but deeper within, there's a longing for wholeness, purpose, and freedom. The culturally conditioned psyche teaches her that these deeper longings will be fulfilled through partnership, specifically through marriage. Yet, Jung emphasized that the self cannot be completed by another. Any attempt to fill the inner void through an external figure is a projection, destined to collapse under the weight of unmet expectations. This conditioning is reinforced across generations. Mothers unconsciously pass down their own unexamined beliefs to their daughters, often through warnings, advice, or emotional modeling. Find a good man. Don't end up alone. A woman's time is limited. These messages are absorbed not just intellectually but emotionally, forming the foundation of a woman's sense of worth. Even in progressive societies, where women have access to education and careers, the underlying psychological pressure to settle down remains. A woman who remains single is often seen as incomplete, suspicious, or too much. This cultural narrative masks a deeper truth, that many marriages are not entered consciously, but compulsively, as a response to an inner need shaped by collective expectation. When a woman is told over and over again that her purpose is to marry, she may internalize that goal as her own, even if it contradicts her authentic desires. This is the danger Jung identified: the loss of individuation through the adoption of a false identity. The persona, as Jung described, is the mask we wear to function in society. But when the persona becomes fused with the ego, a woman begins to believe she is the role. She forgets that she is something far deeper than the obedient wife, the ideal partner, or the selfless mother. Her true self, the totality of her conscious and unconscious being, is buried beneath layers of social conditioning. To break this conditioning, a woman must question not just her beliefs about marriage, but the very roots of her identity. She must look inward into the unconscious and ask, who am I beneath the stories I've inherited? What parts of me have been silenced in order to be accepted? What if my life's purpose is not to be chosen, but to choose myself? The process of awakening begins with awareness. When a woman sees that her desire for marriage may not be entirely her own, but a product of collective conditioning, she begins the slow, courageous work of reclaiming her psyche. She steps out of the archetype and into the unknown territory of her own becoming. Carl Jung observed that human beings rarely see others as they are. Instead, they see fragments of themselves projected onto others, especially within intimate relationships. For women conditioned to believe that partnership is the pinnacle of fulfillment, this psychological projection becomes even more intensified. The unconscious, seeking wholeness, casts its missing parts outward, not only onto romantic partners but more dangerously, onto the very idea of marriage itself. The result is an illusion, the belief that union with another will bring about personal completion. This projection often centers on the animus, the masculine aspect of the female psyche, representing qualities such as logic, strength, decisiveness, and spiritual purpose. When the animus is not integrated, it does not disappear, it seeks a host. Many women unknowingly project their animus onto a man, attributing to him the traits they have yet to cultivate within themselves. He becomes the symbol of purpose, authority, and direction. In this act of projection, the woman displaces her own psychological growth onto the figure of the husband. She believes he will lead her, stabilize her, and give her life meaning. This is where the illusion of completion takes root. The relationship becomes a mirror not of love, but of dependency masked as devotion. The man is no longer a person, he is an image, an ideal, a fantasy, and as all projections do, this one eventually shatters. When the real man fails to embody the archetypal qualities the woman projected onto him, disillusionment sets in. This is not a personal failure. It is the inevitable outcome of attempting to outsource inner integration to an external figure. Jung warned of this danger repeatedly. He noted that falling in love often feels magical because it activates projections. The unconscious fills in the blanks with what it desires most. But the magic is unsustainable. True love begins only when the projection dissolves and both individuals see each other clearly, without illusion. Until then, what passes for love is often merely psychological compensation, the unconscious trying to find in the other what has not been found within. For the woman who has been conditioned to see a man as her destiny, this collapse is not only painful, but destabilizing. She may feel betrayed, lost, or unworthy, unaware that the betrayal is not by the man, but by the illusion she cast onto him. The marriage then becomes a battleground for unconscious forces. She tries to fix, mold, or change him, attempting to recreate the ideal she once believed in, but no external effort can restore a projection that has rightfully disintegrated. The cost of this illusion is immense. When a woman projects her inner strength, voice, and authority onto another, she loses access to those qualities within herself. She remains psychologically underdeveloped, waiting for someone else to activate her power. This dynamic can last for decades, locking her in patterns of resentment, passivity, or emotional exhaustion. The marriage becomes a prison, not because of the partner, but because of the psychological displacement that fuels it. To reclaim her power, a woman must turn inward and begin the process of withdrawing projections. This is not easy work. It requires the courage to see others as they truly are, not as the unconscious wants them to be. It demands that she face the parts of herself she has denied, her inner voice, her ambition, her logic, her capacity for leadership. These are not male qualities. They are human qualities, and they belong to her as much as anyone. As she integrates her animus, she begins to feel less need to find completion in a partner. Relationships become choices, not compulsions. Love becomes mutual recognition, not dependency. Marriage, if it happens at all, becomes a union of two whole individuals, not two halves seeking to become whole through each other. The illusion of completion fades, replaced by something far more powerful: the realization that she was never incomplete to begin with. The quest was never about finding the right person, but about becoming the right self, the one who no longer needs to project, because she has reclaimed everything that once lived in the shadow of another. At the heart of Jungian psychology lies the concept of the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche that contains all aspects of the self that have been rejected, suppressed, or deemed unacceptable. For women, the shadow often holds immense energy: unexpressed anger, creative ambition, sexual agency, assertiveness, and the desire for autonomy. These qualities are not inherently negative. They are simply incompatible with the societal mold that defines how a woman should behave, especially within the framework of marriage. When a woman conforms to these expectations without awareness, she doesn't just compromise her identity, she sacrifices herself. Marriage, in its traditional form, often becomes the crucible where this sacrifice takes place. The institution tends to reward traits that align with self-abandonment: pleasing others, maintaining harmony, adapting to the needs of the partner, and prioritizing the relationship over personal growth. This becomes particularly dangerous when it is unconsciously internalized as a moral duty. The woman who questions or resists this model may be labeled difficult, selfish, or unfeminine. Over time, in order to maintain connection, security, or social approval, she represses what Jung would call the shadow, not realizing that this very repression is a psychic wound that fractures her wholeness. The tragedy is that the shadow doesn't disappear. It manifests in indirect, often destructive ways: resentment, depression, sexual withdrawal, unexplained anxiety, or sudden emotional outbursts. These symptoms are not signs of weakness. They are signals from the unconscious that something vital has been lost. They are the voice of the self crying out from beneath layers of conformity. And too often, these cries are misinterpreted or silenced further, dismissed as personal flaws or marital problems, when in truth they are the result of an unlived inner life. In many cases, the shadow is projected outward. A woman might begin to see her husband as controlling, uninspiring, or emotionally distant, not realizing that these are mirrors of her own disowned needs and energies. She may criticize him for being unavailable, while simultaneously avoiding her own emotional truths. She may resent his freedom or ambition, while denying her own desires for exploration, creation, or solitude. In this way, marriage becomes not just a union between two people, but a psychological battlefield where the unconscious fights to be seen. Jung emphasized that integration of the shadow is essential for individuation, the process of becoming whole. For women trapped in the roles prescribed by marriage, this means facing the uncomfortable reality that much of their inner power has been hidden behind masks of politeness, passivity, or nurturing. This doesn't mean abandoning love or partnership. It means reclaiming the parts of the self that have been sacrificed in its name. The journey of integration begins with recognition. A woman must be willing to acknowledge the truths she has been afraid to admit. Perhaps she is angry, unfulfilled, restless, or disillusioned. Perhaps she wants more than what her role allows. These feelings are not evidence of failure. They are signs of awakening. They indicate that the false self, built to maintain an image or please others, is cracking, making space for the authentic self to emerge. This process is not without pain. To integrate the shadow, a woman must confront the very narrative she has built her life around. She must question whether her sacrifices were truly chosen or unconsciously made in exchange for love, security, or validation. She may find that she has lived more for others than for herself, and that the marriage she once saw as a foundation is now a limitation. These realizations can be destabilizing, but they are necessary ruptures in the structure of a false identity. As she reclaims her shadow, she begins to embody qualities that once frightened her: assertiveness, sexual power, creativity, independence. These are not threats to love, they are its foundation. A woman who has integrated her shadow no longer needs to please in order to be worthy. She no longer fears her own strength or dims her light for others to shine. She brings her whole self to the relationship, or if necessary, walks away from it not in bitterness but in integrity. The sacrifice of the self is not an act of love, it is an act of erasure. True love begins only when the whole self is welcomed, not just by a partner, but by the woman herself. The shadow is not the enemy of marriage, but until it is brought into the light, it will continue to sabotage the very connection it longs for. Carl Jung taught that the ultimate goal of human life is individuation, the process through which a person becomes psychologically whole by integrating all aspects of the self, both conscious and unconscious. For a woman, this journey often runs counter to the social institutions designed to shape her identity. Of these, marriage stands as one of the most powerful. It promises stability, belonging, and purpose. But in doing so, it often demands a trade, the surrender of inner autonomy for outer validation. The question, then, is not whether marriage can coexist with individuation, but whether the version of marriage most women are offered allows space for the full development of the self. Individuation is not about isolation or self-centeredness. It is a deeply sacred process in which a person discovers and integrates all the disowned, repressed, or undeveloped parts of their psyche. For women, this frequently means confronting roles they have been taught to inhabit without question: caretaker, lover, wife, mother. While none of these are inherently problematic, they become limiting when they are adopted unconsciously, when they replace inner truth with external expectation. The institution of marriage, with its often rigid roles and social contracts, can become the stage upon which these unconscious patterns play out, reinforcing the very fragmentation that individuation seeks to heal. In many traditional models, marriage does not ask who a woman truly is. It asks what role she is willing to perform. This pressure can interrupt the individuation process at its core. A woman may silence her desires to keep peace. She may choose compromise over authenticity. She may remain in situations that no longer serve her because she fears the shame or judgment of leaving. Each of these choices creates a disconnection, not just from others, but from herself. And without that deep connection to the self, individuation stalls. The woman on the path of individuation begins to see through the illusions. She realizes that wholeness cannot be achieved through merging with another, but only through meeting all aspects of herself, the light and the dark, the known and the mysterious. This requires solitude, reflection, inner confrontation, and above all, the willingness to disappoint others in order to be true to herself. It's a path that can be lonely at times, because it often leads away from the collective norms that define success and fulfillment. But it is also a path of profound liberation. When a woman chooses individuation over institution, she reclaims authorship of her own life. She no longer seeks to be saved, validated, or completed by anyone else. She becomes the authority over her own psyche, the source of her own meaning. She may still choose to love, to partner, even to marry, but these choices will come from a place of fullness, not from lack. This is not the version of womanhood that society often celebrates. The individuated woman cannot be easily categorized. She is not defined by her relationship status, her ability to nurture, or her willingness to sacrifice. She is defined by her presence, the depth of her inner life, the clarity of her boundaries, the authenticity of her choices. She has faced her shadow, withdrawn her projections, and stepped out of the roles assigned to her. And because of this, She brings something rare and powerful into the world, a model of wholeness that does not rely on external structures to feel real. Choosing individuation over institution also means that a woman may have to deconstruct the myth of romantic salvation. This myth tells her that there is someone out there who will see her completely, love her unconditionally, and give her life meaning. But Jung's work reminds us that no other person can complete what is missing within. That task belongs solely to the individual. When a woman integrates this truth, she becomes free, not from love, but from illusion. Institution, when unconscious, asks for conformity. Individuation demands truth. While they are not mutually exclusive, they are often in tension. The more deeply a woman individuates, the less willing she is to inhabit roles that stifle her. The more conscious she becomes, the more clearly she sees the cost of self-abandonment. And in that clarity, she may choose paths that seem unconventional, even radical, but which are, in truth, the most natural expression of her soul's journey. A woman who chooses individuation is not rejecting love, intimacy, or connection. She is rejecting the lie that she must diminish herself to attain them. She is rejecting the belief that her highest calling is to be someone's partner rather than her own deepest self. In doing so, she models a new paradigm, one where union, if it happens, is born not from need, but from wholeness. The path to self-realization is rarely comfortable, especially for women raised to believe that fulfillment lies in being chosen, claimed, and secured within the bounds of marriage. But as we've explored, through the lens of Jungian psychology, this belief often conceals a deeper psychological displacement, a loss of the self disguised as romantic achievement. The journey back to the self requires courage, because it demands the deconstruction of illusions, the confrontation of the shadow, and the withdrawal of projections that once made love feel magical but unsustainable. Carl Jung taught that the soul seeks wholeness, not approval. And for a woman, this may mean refusing roles that compromise her authenticity, even when those roles are sanctified by tradition. It may mean walking away from institutions that promise belonging, but require self-betrayal. The woman who chooses individuation over conformity is not broken, rebellious, or bitter. She is becoming whole. If this message resonated with you, it's time to step into your truth. Let this video be your mirror, your spark, your permission. Subscribe to the channel to deepen your psychological journey, and don't forget to watch the next video on your screen, where we continue to explore the path of inner transformation. Yourself is waiting. Are you ready to answer?